welcome back to my channel, Adventures with Amirah. Thanks for joining me for another coffee chat. Today is the second in my series, and today I want to talk about surviving in a world of mean girls. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't get much better when you get older. You keep thinking that people will grow out of things and people will be nicer and kinder when they're adults. I haven't necessarily found that to be true. This topic is really close to me because I do have a daughter. She just turned 11 yesterday. She's in 5th grade, and there are so many things that go on at school that she picks up on, and she comes home and talks to me. I try to keep a very open line of communication with her. And for all of you with little girls out there, I encourage you to do the same. I want to know everything that's going on at school, so I try to take time each day to ask her, you know, did anything interesting happen? Did you hear anything on the playground that you want to tell me about? Because there's a lot of things that happen and they don't even think to bring it up until you ask. And I wanted to really talk to you guys about some situations that I've been through and how some people in the world are just going to be mean. And it's not because of anything that you've done to them. It's not because of anything you could have done differently. That's just who they are. I did not realize that until probably in the last 5 to 10 years. Just because I don't think that way about people, and I try to be a very encouraging person. I have a few things that I want to let you guys know just because I have people talk to me about stuff like this all the time, and I thought I would share. Number one is believe people when they show you who they are the first time. And I'm not saying they can't change. That's not what I'm saying at all. I believe in 2nd, 3rd, 50th chances, the kind of person that I am. But don't be surprised and don't be so devastated if something turns out into an ugly situation and you look back and you say, I saw that coming. I just was not realizing what the signs were that this was headed in this awful direction. And you really have to pay attention to stuff when people are treating people a certain way or they're acting a certain way about a situation that's not in alignment with who you are and your beliefs and your morals. And you continue to be friends with that person, you can't be surprised if eventually it causes a conflict between you. And I have friends from all walks of life, all religions, all races, all everything. And, you know, normally there's like a common thread between us, whether we have similar parenting styles or maybe we were raised up the same. There's something. I'm not saying you need to be, you know, exactly like other people, but you can't be surprised if you see a friend that's constantly stabbing people in the back or talking poorly about people, and then they do that to you. and that's surprising to me because that seems like common sense to me now, but in retrospect, when I was living through that, sometimes I just didn't pick up on it like that. I wouldn't see that, and I would say, oh, well, I'm sure they're not like that all the time or whatever. And I'm infamously guilty for giving people the benefit of the doubt too many times. You have to believe people when they show you who they are. And sometimes people don't show you who they are by what they do to you. They're showing you who they are by what they do to other people. And I try to teach that to my daughter as well. When people are being mean at school, I explain to her, you know, a lot of times people are going through stuff at home. Sometimes there's nothing you can do differently about yourself, and you have to somewhat form a barrier to that. And it's difficult in today's world. There's so much negativity around us all the time, and trying to insulate yourself from that is very, very difficult. We're all on different levels in life, and my daughter, sometimes she gets really upset with people if they're not empathetic to something, and I tell her, well, they may not understand things the way that you understand things. And I've had to learn that myself. Sometimes I would think, if I could just get this person to understand. And my husband finally would say, babe, it's not that they don't understand. They don't care. Whatever you're thinking is important might not be important to them. Like, well, maybe you misunderstood or whatever. And my husband will just be shaking his head like, oh, my sweet wife. But that's just who I am. I feel like I have to try to help people understand something, especially if they're doing something mean-spirited to someone else. I always feel the need to intervene. And I've taught my kids that if you see somebody doing something that you know is wrong and is mean-spirited and hateful to somebody else, you either intervene if you feel like it's safe for you to intervene, or you come tell mom or tell a teacher or whatever, because I want them to always feel safe to tell me everything. I do not teach my kids to not tattletale. I want to know everything that happens so that I can help you guide yourself through that situation. That way, if something goes down at school, especially these days, I mean, if it weren't for kids telling on other kids about weapons and some of the stuff would have been a lot worse that's going on in society right now, except that somebody hears something and tells somebody. I want to be the mom that they come to and tell something when something is about to go down so that I can keep our kids safe. When people are being mean to one another or people are being mean to somebody else, I think that something needs to be said. I think as a society, we totally have backed off from being in people's business, but isn't all of humanity our business, especially if we're trying to keep people safe? You guys could tell me in the comments down below what you think about that, but I know with our family, it's come in handy quite a few times that my kids feel like they can just come to me, tell me something that's going on at school, even if it doesn't involve them, and then I can let a teacher know or somebody else, the counselor at school, know so that they can take preventative measures. Let me tell you about this friend that I had in Colorado. There was this girl that lived across the cul-de-sac from me. And we would go shopping sometimes, or we would hang out at each other's house. She would stop by sometimes, or I'd stop by her house. We went to dinner a few times, and then we were having cookouts in our cul-de-sac where a lot of the families would come out in the summer, and we would just set up grills in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and all the kids would ride their little tricycles and play. And it was just really a nice feeling of community. Or so I thought. One night, I had been sick or something, so I wasn't even registering that it was even Sunday night. But we had a huge snowstorm, and the whole cul-de-sac would turn into almost to like an ice skating rink, but not in a fun way. The ice had cleared up in the cul-de-sac, and I thought, I'm going to go see my friend tonight. I'm going to walk over and say hey to, I'll call her Anna. So my husband had the kids. So I was like, hey, do you mind if I walk over and talk to Anna? He was like, no, go ahead. Keep in mind, I looked like a hot mess. I told you I had just been sick. I don't know if I had the flu. It was something. I don't remember. I had on like some sweatpants and some like snow boots I just threw on, and like my husband's hoodie. No makeup. I had my glasses on. Needless to say, I was looking a little bedraggled, but there I went, traipsing over to my friend's house. And my house sat at the back of the cul-de-sac, and her house sat on the front facing the outer street on the cul-de-sac, so you couldn't see her front door from where I am. And I walked like across and up around to her front door, and I rang the doorbell, and she came and answered. I walk in, and she's in the middle of a party. And I was like, oh my gosh, all my neighbors were there. And they're like, hey, Amirah, where have you been? We were wondering when y'all were going to come. I was not invited. So that has to be probably one of the most awkward things that has ever happened to me. And kind of devastating, because I thought that girl, for my time in Colorado, I thought she was like one of my best friends. But oh, how wrong I was. It was like one of those episodes of Punk'd or something. I was like, what is going on? It didn't even register me that it was Super Bowl. She was having a Super Bowl party. So I had to see all the neighbors there, and we were the only ones not invited. And people are saying, well, where's your husband? Where are the kids? You know, are they coming? And I didn't know what to say. I was trying so hard not to bust out crying in the middle of that party. I was already looking a hot mess. To get my thoughts together, trying to think of an escape route, because she had a door that went out the side of her garage. But I was like, was the garage open? Could I even get out the side door before anybody else notices that I'm here? Because she sat me down. She was like, here, sit down over here. And I was like, is she going to address the fact that I'm even here or I wasn't invited? And so they were having like a potluck, and normally I would always bring food, and they're like, what'd you bring? Because people like what I make. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't bring anything. And somebody else pulls me to the side, and they're like, are you okay? I said, I'm just going to run back home. They were like, why are you leaving? And I said, I wasn't invited to this party. I didn't even know you guys were here, because when the neighbors all went to her house, nobody parked. Everybody just walked over. Like, the cul-de-sacs were like super small. And I remember going home, and I just busted out crying when I got to the front door. And my husband's like, oh, he thought I'd fallen on the ice. He was like, oh my gosh, what happened? You know, did she have ice on the stairs? And it took me a second to get myself together to tell my husband what had just happened. And oh, he was furious. He was like, I told you something was off about that girl. Didn't I tell you that? I was like, you did. My husband has such a good sense of people, much better than I've ever had. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt, so I always think, oh, you're just being too harsh, or you're being too, I don't know what the word would be, but apparently smart might be the word that I should use. And he just, you know, was listening to the story of what just had happened. And he was like, what in the world? I was like, everybody else there thought that we were invited. They kept asking for you and the kids. And I was like, maybe it's something with she and I. Maybe I did something wrong or I offended her in some way. I mean, I do my best not to ever offend somebody, but I was like, maybe. I mean, we had just gone to dinner with a whole group of friends the week before. I'm always trying to figure out what I've done wrong that this person's acting this way. Oh, the old me. I'm not like that anymore. The next day, I thought, I should really call her. I mean, I've been friends with this person 2 years. I should at least say, you know, did I do something wrong that we wouldn't have been invited to this neighborhood party? And so her response was very shocking to me. Wait for it. She tells me, well, Amirah, I didn't invite you over because I didn't want you there, because every time that you're around anywhere, nobody pays attention to me. Sit with that for just a second. She flat out told me I didn't do anything specifically wrong except that I exist. And I normally have a response for almost everything, but that was one morning I did not know what to say to that. I'm sorry for being me? What do you say to that? I was so shocked by this person saying this to me. And I was like, well, I really didn't understand. I was like, I don't understand. We just were hanging out like a week ago. She was like, well, I've always felt this way about you. And so this time I just decided to do something for me, and I was just going to have a party that you weren't going to be at. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, you don't see how that's hurtful to me? Like, she was like, no, everybody can't be invited to everything. And I was like, okay. I was like, I understand. I was under the impression we were friends. She was like, we're really not that good of friends. And I was like, okay, so all the years that I've known you, the times you've eaten in my home, the times you've invited me to your home, the times that we've cooked out and let our children play together, I guess I was just under the misguided thought process that that was what friendship was. So after that, I really became gun shy when it came to other friends, other just females in general. I just kind of sunk into myself and was like, no more. Because I think I just put so much on the line. And I have a good friend now. And it took me a long time to develop friends when we got to Florida. Even though people are always asking me for my number and trying to be friends and stuff, I just was so shy because it's like I don't trust myself not to be excited or bamboozled by somebody or something. It's more of me and not them. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know, you know. But I have a good friend now, and she was telling me what she taught her daughter was never get so attached to someone that if they walked away, you would be devastated. Just don't let yourself get attached to people like that. Like, they can just be acquaintances at school. They can be friends at school, but, you know, outside of school, you've got your family and what's really important to you at home. And that's what really, really should take value in your life. And I agree with that. I started telling my daughter that because she was having problems at school where she didn't really know what's a good friend and what's not a good friend. I mean, she's got me for a mama, so obviously it took me a long time to figure out that stuff as well. But I felt so bad to have to tell her that. But I guess that's more of a safe way to think about things. Have you guys had friends that totally turned out that they weren't your friend? If so, leave me a note in the comments below or message me privately if it's not something you want to share on a public venue. But anyway, I just had to share that story with you guys because it's hard, and that was a grown woman in a professional career. Why she would have felt that way, I have no idea, but she probably was the same way in high school, and she's still like that in her 30s, and what do? You can't change how other people act. You can only change the way that you react to things and the way that you carry yourself. Thank you guys so much for stopping by another one of my coffee chats. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.